grandfather was a Mason, and it's just throughout my family. My problem is I have two questions. One of them, and I'll give them both to you, and then just listen to your answer. How do I do this without turning my back and just basically being, not? It's not appreciated in the family for me to join the Catholic Church, and I don't want there to be any hard feelings. And the second question is, if the Catholic Church is forgiving and loving and all that I've been learning about it, and that I believe it is, then why would there be such animosity toward Masons toward this organization that happened before any of us were even born, or our grandparents or our great-grandparents even? Why is this ongoing throughout the ages and not trying? Why hasn't anyone tried to rectify it and get some peace between the two?
Okay, thanks, Nancy. I really appreciate the question a lot. So, several things. First of all, the Catholic Church, of course, does not think that all Masons are bad people. Obviously not. And it's not a kind of personal vendetta at all. You know the history of Freemasonry, I'm sure, better than I do. You know that historically, the Masonic Lodge was set up in kind of intentional opposition to the Catholic faith and to its doctrines. And embedded in the philosophy of Freemasonry is the philosophy of naturalism and also indifferentism. All right, that it doesn't fundamentally matter what religious tradition you belong to, as long as you believe in God in a deistic kind of way and lead a moral life. Well, that position of religious indifferentism and naturalism is directly in contradiction to what the Catholic Church teaches about the incarnation and the life of grace, that all people are called to communion with Christ in the Catholic Church. That doesn't mean that everybody has to be a card-carrying member of the Catholic Church to go to heaven. There are always people who are going to be outside the church through no fault of their own, but that God really did send his son Jesus into the world to redeem the world, to reconcile all people to himself and to one another in the Catholic Church, not through the religion of naturalism and not through the religion of philosophical indifferentism. All right, and you mentioned also things that took place in the past. As you know, in the past, the Masonic Lodge intentionally sought to undermine Catholic influence in civil society. And it's no mistake, it's no accident that many of the largest and oldest lodges in the country are strategically placed in the vicinity of Catholic cathedrals, and in particular Jesuit institutions of higher learning around the country, because they sought to counter the influence of the Jesuits specifically and the Catholic Church generally. And when you talk about reconciling, when you have two different systems, two different organizations that have fundamentally incommensurable doctrinal statements and philosophies, and one is set up in intentional opposition to the other, I mean, the way to reconcile is for the party that's in opposition to recant that position. So if the Masonic Lodge changed its doctrinal statements and its philosophy, and in a way that was not contradictory to the Catholic Church, I'm sure the Catholic Church would appreciate that. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
But the Catholic Church can't change its doctrinal statement, can't change its moral position, because the Catholic Church understands itself to be a divine institution founded by Jesus and given a divine mission to bring salvation to all the world through Christ, not through any religious tradition, not through any founder, not through any philosophy. It's not a matter of indifference, but through Jesus, right? But again, that doesn't mean we have any personal animus against individual Masons per se. And most people who are involved in Masonry, they were either born into the tradition like you were, or they joined because they're interested in participating in a civic organization, and they don't have any personal animus against Catholicism as individuals. But the fundamental orientation of the organization is anti-Catholic, and that's why Catholics can't participate in it. Now, in terms of, what do you do going forward, your situation is not unique. I'm a convert to the Catholic Church myself. My family were not Masons, but they were very dogmatic Protestants who have in their doctrinal statement, the church I grew up in had as part of its formal statement of faith the condemnation of the Pope as the Antichrist. And the Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon. needless to say, it didn't go down well when I announced that I was going to become a Catholic. And I know very few people, in fact, who join the Catholic Church where it doesn't create at least some friction with their friends and relatives and neighbors. The Catholic Church, more than any other Christian religious body, claims the right to speak not only to a man's interior life, not only to a woman's interior life, but even to the conduct of civil society. And so in a way, the claims of the Catholic Church do kind of infringe on the very sort of libertarian, individualistic ethos that's common in the modern world. And so Catholic Church rubs people the wrong way. And Jesus acknowledged this, that it's a stone of stumbling for people, okay? And he said in Matthew chapter 10 and elsewhere that if anyone loves father, mother, fields, lands, houses, whatever, more than me, they're not worthy of me. So he anticipated the problem and said, if you have to pick between following God and loyalty to your family, it's a no-brainer. You have to follow God. Of course. Now, my advice to people in your situation, and I've had to walk this path myself. All right, and Tom walked it, and lots of other people have had to walk it. You don't have to pick a fight, right? You don't. It takes two to fight, and you don't have to be the one that picks it. And I suspect that your Masonic relatives have a respect for the doctrine of conscience. And what I advise people to do when they have to bring this up with their family members is to say, look, you respect conscience, right? The rights of conscience. Oh yeah, conscience, great thing. My conscience is persuading me that I have to do something that you're not going to like. What do you think I ought to do? Should I follow my conscience? Well,
Yeah.
and they're going to be hard pressed, probably,
Sure.
to tell you to disobey your conscience.
Yeah.
Well, my conscience tells me I have to be Catholic. I don't want this to be a source of conflict between us. If you choose, you can make it a source of conflict. I'm not going to make it a source of conflict. I love you. I want to be as close and intimate with you as I've ever been. If you want to make this something to fight about, that's on you. But I've got to follow my conscience.
Great advice. Nancy, thank you so much for your call. We'll certainly keep you and your family in our prayers.